China's in a war with us. You go ahead, any company right now, try to buy land in Beijing. Try to buy land in Beijing around their nuclear facilities. Try to buy land in Beijing or Russia around any of their military facilities and see what happens. Folks, China is invading America as we speak. Yes, we are in a proxy war with China. And if you don't believe me, you better wake up. For more than a decade now, we, the United States, have been asleep at the wheel. And I would say maybe several decades, and especially when it comes to China. The Chinese have been very adamant about what they plan on doing. I'm talking about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, not the Chinese people, of course, not all of them, who a good portion that don't support this communist government, but are under their, basically under their thumb. China has been targeting the United States now in proxy wars. These are called unrestricted warfare. This is unrestricted warfare, and it comes in all various levels. It comes from just pouring narcotics into our country, into counterfeit pills by utilizing the drug cartels to be their proxy. Let them mix up the fentanyl in Mexico and then ship it into the US. But China sure makes certain that the cartels have that fentanyl. We've seen over 130,000 deaths last year due to fentanyl. The surge in fentanyl crisis in the United States, the surge in trank drugs and drugs like crock on the streets, turning some of our communities into zombies is just something that I never imagined I would have seen in our own nation. And they don't do this with the military. They do it through influence, through social media, through business, agriculture, education, the border, like I just mentioned, medicine, and so many other avenues. Do you know that we have a shortage of antibiotics right now in the United States? Do you know that the majority of our antibiotics, over 90% of our antibiotics, are made in China? I want you to think about that. And did you know there is a rise in syphilis in the United States? Yeah, sexually transmitted syphilis. The United States has a huge problem with syphilis, with cases rising more than they've seen in 20 years. Increased nearly 75% between 2017 and 2021 alone, bringing the number to more than 176,000 people that were diagnosed with syphilis in 2021. And Pfizer and other manufacturers, of course, of vaccines and of antibiotics are saying they have a shortage of the antibiotic that they need, the penicillin that they need to fight syphilis. So now we're going to see, according to the CDC, a widespread infectious disease like syphilis spread widely across the United States. I am telling you that we are facing some really extraordinarily dangerous times. So while our government is busy indicting a previous president of these United States on the most trumped up charges, mark my words, because I believe they are trumped up and it just works perfectly with his name. We have enemies targeting us. We are asleep at the wheel. And if it's gotten this bad to right now, imagine what our nation is going to be like 10 years from now if we continue to sleep at the wheel and not pay attention to this. I say to you, we could end up losing our nation completely. And we are on that road, and that scares me. I'm just grateful that some of us are waking up. I'm just grateful that I believe that the more we expose our adversaries, the less power they have over us. So we need to keep exposing them. Folks, gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for. And it gives you back that control, that privacy that you need. And with the world so upside down, you should go to Allegiance Gold. Why? Because it's going to allow you to protect your IRA, your 401k. They're going to do it with physical gold and silver, and it's going to allow you to protect your family's assets. And this is so important. Don't just trust me. Do the research yourself. Find out for yourself how important this is. I want you to be protected. I want my family to be protected. And in this upside down world where we're facing our adversaries, and where we see countries like, Canada with Prime Minister Joe Trudeau, doing everything he can to invade people's privacy and seize bank accounts. And we have our own problems here in the United States with our own banks. You need someone like Allegiance Gold. They've got 5 stars with TrustLink. They're AAA rated with the Better Business Consumer Alliance. And guess what? They're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait, call or click today. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks. We already know that, but we can prepare. That's 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or go to protectwithsara.com. Unrestricted warfare. That's a word that is used quite often at, the defense institutes where our military is studying, possible future warfare scenarios, right? And Unrestricted Warfare is also a book that was published in the 1990s by 2 top Chinese Air Force generals. And it was eventually translated, and it was mind-blowing. This book basically laid out China's plans and China's, the mindset of the Chinese military of how to target the United States. Let me read a little bit of this to you, just one little portion. If one party is at war with another, and the other party doesn't realize it is at war, the party who knows it is at war almost always has the advantage and usually wins, quote unquote. And this is the strategy set forth in Unrestricted Warfare, waging a war on an adversary with methods so covert. At first, they seem so benign, right? So benign. You don't realize it. Like, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory, right? That's just a conspiracy theory. The Chinese government's really not sending the fentanyl, the chemical mixtures. It's, coming out of China. The Chinese government knows everything. It doesn't matter if the Chinese triads are sending it to Mexico, or if it's a corporation in China that's sending all of these precursor chemicals to Mexico. The Chinese government is well aware, and the Chinese government has strategized that into their plans. So wake up. So the Unrestricted Warfare says waging war on an adversary with methods that are so covert at first and seemingly so benign that the other person or the other party being attacked doesn't realize it's being attacked, usually until it's too late. I want to read the name of the book again. Unrestricted Warfare, China's Master Plan to Destroy America. That's the full name of the book. The full name of the book. Let me read another piece here, and then I'm going to tell you why we are in the middle of a war with China. Only from the perspective of mankind can mankind clearly perceive the essence of technology as a tool. And only then can he avoid becoming a slave to that technology, to the tool, during the process of resolving the difficult problems he faces in his existence. Kuo Liang, who is one of the generals, put that in there. And he said, during a war between 2 countries, during the fighting and killing by 2 armies, it is necessary to use special means to wage psychological war aimed at soldiers' families as far back in the rear area, right? When protecting a country's financial security, can assassination be used to deal with the financial spectators? Can surgical strikes be made without a declaration of war against areas which are sources of drugs and other smuggled goods? Interesting. Can special funds be set up to exert greater influence on another country's government and legislature through lobbying? Wow. It's all right there, guys. And could buying or gaining control of stocks be used to turn another country's newspapers and television stations into the tools of media warfare? What do you think has been happening in the United States of America, folks? What do you think our adversaries have been doing to us from the very beginning? While we were asleep at the wheel, nation states like China, and by the way, Russia, and by the way, Iran, and others have been plotting against us. It is a plot that is so deceptive and deceitful that it happens right before our eyes, and we're like the frogs, slowly being boiled without even realizing it. Let me show you this story. Illegal Chinese linked biolab filled with mice medical waste discovered. No, not in China, folks, in California. Authorities discovered an illegal Chinese-linked biomedical lab in Central California filled with unlicensed mice, medical waste, refrigerators, and other infectious agents. The discovery came after months of investigation into the lab in Reedley, California, that was suspected to be running an illegal operation. Reedley city manager, Nicole, this is a city manager. This wasn't like the FBI and the CIA came in and was like, oh, look at this. We've got a lab in here with mice with diseases. Oh, by the way, it's run by the Chinese, connected to the Chinese Communist Party. A biomedical lab in California in one of our communities. The state issued an order for an inspection after a local code enforcement officer. Thank you, local code enforcement officer, whoever you are, noticed a garden hose poking out of the back end of the building. Guys, we're in big trouble. Inside the illegal lab, health inspectors found nearly 1,000 lab mice, 200 of which were dead. According to the station, inspectors also found thousands of vials, some of which contained human blood and other substances. The lab was shut down in early July. Local, state, and federal agencies have been working to remove and properly dispose of the materials. Guys, we do not know what was going on in there because we have no idea what was going on in Wuhan laboratories, do we? And Senator Rand Paul, thank God for him. Thank God for him and the work that he's doing, as well as the House Oversight Committee and the other committees, on the Senate side and on the congressional side. Thank God for the work that they are doing to try to expose this. But folks, why does it have to take this long? Millions of people died of COVID. Our lives were turned upside down. We were living in lockdowns like sheep being led to the slaughter. Folks, I told you earlier, gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for. And it gives you back that control and that privacy that you need, right? And right now with Allegiance Gold, that's why I love it. Thank you, Allegiance Gold, for being a sponsor of the Sara Carter Show so that we can inform people of all the crazy stuff that's happening in our world. Right now, Allegiance Gold will help protect you and your family from that crazy stuff. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. Remember that. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today, 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, S-A-R-A, no H. Or go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks. We know that now, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, S-A-R-A, or go to protectwithsara.com. So here's another very interesting story that we have to talk about before I let you all go, because I think you and I working together. And again, remember what the Chinese said in Unrestricted Warfare. I'm going back up to the top. The two Chinese generals, what did they say? They say, if you don't know you're at war with the enemy, if you're the blind one, and I know I'm at war with you, then I have the upper hand. And almost always, more than likely, I am going to win. So here at the Sara Carter Show, I want to expose the country that is at war with us. Multiple countries, but it's particularly China, so that you're no longer asleep, so that your eyes are wide open, and so that you understand what is going on here. And this is from Jazz Shaw at Hot Air. Last month, the federal government noticed that a mysterious company named Flannery Associates has been buying up huge amounts of land surrounding Travis Air Force Base in California, okay? The purchases of the land add up to nearly $1 billion. This is right around Travis Air Force Base. So why wouldn't the Defense Department be like, hey, what is this country, Flannery and Associates? You know why they're probably not doing that? Is because they're spending all their time rewriting military doctrine so that the military can be a woke place where you can get transgender surgery. I'm just throwing that out there. The purchases of this land around Travis Air Force Base are totaling nearly $1 billion. But the company doesn't seem to actually be doing anything with the property. This is like what's been happening across the country, folks. Like in different areas of our nation, agriculture has been bought up. Eventually, we find out that these front companies are actually connected to the Chinese Communist Party. How good is that? Some of the former landowners have said they really didn't want to sell in the first place, but Flannery was offering such high prices, they just couldn't turn down those offers. Efforts to find out who's behind the company and whether or not they have any ties to foreign nations have largely come up empty. So suspicious, right? So we're still investigating this. Flannery Associates buying up all this huge amount of land. Everything's coming up empty. We've seen this happening in other places throughout the country. We've seen this in Oklahoma. We've seen this in North Dakota. We've seen this right here in Texas, right outside of Laughlin Air Base, where we know a front company was purchasing, we know directly now, with the Chinese Communist Party, because guess what? The purchaser was a Chinese general. I want you to just put that into perspective, right? We were in the Sara Carter show and Sean Hannity with Fox News, and I was there. We were in Oklahoma. I was with the governor, and we were talking about this, how front companies were buying, and that's why the governor basically said, no more. It's not going to be happening in Oklahoma. We're not even going to allow front companies to do such a thing. But folks, we have people that are willing to sell their country, their families, the flag, the Constitution, and everything else for some money, right? They're willing to sell their nation, their families, their future generations for money, for the almighty dollar, for the Chinese yuan. Look who's in the White House. You're telling me our nation is not at war? That we are not in a war with China? China's in a war with us. China's in a war with us. You go ahead, any company right now, try to buy land in Beijing. Try to buy land in Beijing around their nuclear facilities. Try to buy land in Beijing or Russia around any of their military facilities and see what happens. It's infuriating to me. It is infuriating to me because it's happening right in our faces. And the president of these United States, yes, President Biden, yes, we've seen it. You've been exposed. Devin Archer exposed you. Hunter Biden's partner exposed you this week. But the problem is much bigger than just the small story about Devin Archer exposing what happened. It's much bigger. We have to see the big picture here. It was about selling access to our nation to adversaries like China. And I've laid out just some of what's happened here in the United States. You know, with China, we're going to go into other things. I mean, this isn't it. China established schools all across our nation. They've changed the way they do things when it comes to lobbying. There's so much we could talk about here. China's military, China's intelligence apparatus. China just cracked through our military's computer systems. We know this now. And in fact, I tweeted about it, but when I first started working at the Washington Times, one of the biggest stories that I focused on, and it was years and years and years ago, was the fact that I had interviewed a general, a U.S. Air Force general, who admitted that China had cracked through multiple layers of the Pentagon. And they did it by having a student in Virginia actually a university student in Virginia that was really a Chinese military expert on computers. He posed as a Virginia student and he hacked into the Pentagon. He moved right down the street from the Pentagon, hacked into it, got whatever he needed to get, went back to China, and then laughed at us and wrote a column about it. Don't let the Chinese laugh at us. Don't let this happen in the United States of America. You know, we have to find solutions to this. We have to vote in leaders and lawmakers that will be hyper-focused on this, right? Hyper-focused on this. Folks, you need to do this. You need to call this out. You need to demand answers from our leaders. China is an absolute threat. The Chinese Communist Party is a threat to our nation. It is a threat to its own people. It is a threat to our planet, and it is a threat to Taiwan. I don't know what the next decade is going to look like I said at the top of the show. But if we stay asleep at the wheel, China's plans for unrestricted warfare to take down the United States of America is actually very plausible and very likely. If you love today's show and you want even more of the Sara Carter Show, make sure you rate this podcast 5 stars, guys, and subscribe to your favorite podcast app. Let's do it. Subscribe to the Sara Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. Folks, God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless us and protect us from our adversaries. God bless, you know what, our enemies, that they will back away before they wake up this big beast known as the United States of America, because God help us, once we do wake up, and if you keep coming after us, you guys are the ones that are going to be in trouble. And God bless the great state of Texas.